Hickman voted for Allen Iverson MVP. Shaq got every vote except one. Shaq still holds it against him. Hickman was criticized. How can you vote for that? But Allen Iverson was incredibly valuable to the Sixers. He got the Sixers to a finals. What were they without him? I'm not even sure if they were a playoff team without him. I didn't think it was outrageous. Here's what's interesting. Aaron Rodgers is going to be, and I do think Aaron is incredibly valuable, but Fox Bets has the odds for the MVP, and it's really a two-person race, Aaron and Patrick Mahomes. Josh Allen is considered kind of a complete long shot. I don't think he's going to win it, but it's kind of ridiculous that he's not in the same class, and I'll give you an example. So valuable to me is, what do you work with? How important are you? So Mahomes, let's take him, works with a tight end having the greatest tight end season ever, arguably the best tight end in football, arguably a top 5 tight end of all time. A wide receiver named Tyreek Hill, 15 touchdowns, 1,200 yards, fastest player in the NFL, and a head coach in Andy Reid, who's probably the best play caller, he and Sean Payton, last 20 years in football. Aaron Rodgers works with an offensive line that's rated number 1 in pass protection, a wide receiver that leads the league in TD receptions, a running back who's the 4th leading rusher, and a young, clever, progressive offensive coach. Josh Allen works with Stephon Diggs, and that's where it ends. The offensive line is the worst of the 3 in average, running back slightly below average, head coach defensive-minded, and the tight end, you tell me, a non-factor. It's not called BVP, best quarterback, right? It's just most valuable quarterback, MVP, most best quarterback. That's not it. It's most valuable. He's also, by the way, the most valuable asset to his team's overall offense. He's got 8 rushing touchdowns, along with his 34 passing touchdowns. So he is intricate and important for the running game. He's just doing more with less. I mean, people say he's got Stephon Diggs. Even look at what he's done with Stephon Diggs this year. Stephon Diggs was with the very capable Kirk Cousins for years. He averaged 900 receiving yards, 73 catches, and 6 touchdowns. Without a preseason for a young Josh Allen, he's going to end up with probably 1,500 yards, 125 catches, and 8 or 9 touchdowns. That's with no preseason and no OTA. So all I'm making is the argument that it should be a 3-person race here. I would vote for Aaron, but I've said I would vote for Josh in a close second. I think he's as important and working with less than Aaron with a defensive coach, and defensive coaches see the world differently. They want you to run the ball, eat the clock, win by 3, and get out of town. Offensive coaches, their egos are in clever and multiple sets and giving you a different look. That's part of the ego of being an offensive coach. Those are considered the smarter of the coaches, the offensive coaches, the Sean McVays, the Kyle Shanahans, the offensive wizardry, right? The defensive guys are like tough guys. They beat up the offensive guy in an octagon. You win, you play football, special teams, Brian Flores. You don't want to mess with Tomlin or Brian Flores. They're tough guys. So, I mean, I just kind of look at Josh Allen. I think it's kind of ridiculous. It's not a 3-team race, and I think it's ridiculous that you can't even put him in second without getting pushback. I would have it Rodgers slightly, and I mean slightly above Josh Allen. In fact, Sunday could change it for me, and Mahomes actually a little more distant third. Joy Taylor with the news.
No. Turn on the news. This is the Herd Line News.
You know what's funny too, Joy? In the NBA, Josh Allen would win it. Because in the NBA, it's about the story, and his story's better. And also in the NBA, Mahomes and Rodgers would be criticized because they're, like super teams. I mean, Mahomes is on a super team. Whereas in the NBA, you get value working with, like Russell Westbrook. Durant leaves, he gets a triple-double by himself. So Josh Allen as an NBA player would be a much more intriguing story, and he'd probably win it.
I think the issue is, similarly with NBA and with NFL, is the naming of the award. Because we can never decide what is the criteria. Like last year, Giannis got it mainly because he had better numbers than he had the year before when he won it.
Yeah.
Like that was just the only argument. Like, well, he won last year and he has better numbers this year. Like, okay, but that's not what the award is. It's not a numbers award. Like, so what is the award? I think doesn't quite roll off the tongue the same way.
Right.
But I think it's really most outstanding player.
Yes.
That's really what it is.
Yeah, I think MOP is what it should
MOP
be.
is not as good as MVP.
Right.
But that's what it is. Like if we reprogram ourselves to stop thinking of the word value and just think who is the most outstanding player this year.
Yeah,
that's really what the award is.
Yeah, and then I would say Aaron Rodgers won, Josh Allen 1A, and Mahomes, who's had a bad December.
But then doesn't that make you feel more comfortable?
Absolutely.
Giving it to Aaron Rodgers?
Absolutely.
So let's all just decide together. Let's all in agreement. We are the truth brokers of the United States of America.
Honesty brokers in America.
Yes.
Well, the Heisman's had the same issue where it always goes to a quarterback. And there have been years where the best player, like Chase Young, was the best player in college football, but it's just understood the Heisman is just a quarterback award. It's like, or a running back out of a system which runs the ball for, like Clemson's running backs behind a bunch of NFL offensive linemen are always going to have big yards.
Right. Most outstanding player.
Right.
Just reprogram ourselves. So Tua is playing the biggest game of his young career on Sunday. If the Dolphins win, they secure their spot in the postseason. But Tua is not putting any extra pressure on himself to get the win.
I'd say for me, there's really, no extra added pressure for me. I would say the expectation for myself is very high in, how I perform and how I go out there and try to lead the guys to victory. Obviously, this past weekend, I didn't play to that standard. And, it's more so like me knowing that, we got to go out there and, got to get the job done.
Basically, he's saying he always has pressure on himself, so there is no added pressure.
So forget what we say as broadcasters or fans say. If he got benched a third time and looked small against Josh Allen, what would his teammates think? It feels like there is pressure.
There's definitely pressure, especially because I would say that there's added pressure because of where the Dolphins pick in the draft this year. If the Dolphins didn't have Houston's pick, there wouldn't be as much pressure because we'd know this is the guy that you are going to have for at least the next couple of years.
Yeah.
He's obviously not struggling so much that you're going to get a high draft pick.
Right.
So this is the guy. But it makes things interesting that the Dolphins have that top pick. That's really the twist in this story because while I do think that Tua needs more time to develop, he's a rookie. He's going to get compared to Joe Burrow and Justin Herbert, as he should, because those are his contemporaries. Whether that's fair or not, again, who cares about fair? Life's not fair. This is what it is. This is a competitive industry. You have to perform, which he knows. But I think that pick is what makes things interesting for Tua.
Listen, if he looks small and gets benched, you cannot tell me columnists will not write about what do you do with that number 3 pick? Like, that feels like pressure to me.
And it's fair. It's fair for them to do that because
absolutely.
This is the world that we live in.
That's exactly right.
They would lock up the 5 seed with a win. Really, the issue for the Dolphins and the benching is that Ryan Fitzpatrick is able to push it down the field, and Tua is not getting a lot of air yards this season. It's all dink and dunk, and that might not get it done, even though we don't know what Buffalo is going to do with their personnel this weekend. So another team that has to win to get into the playoffs is the Browns. They need a win over the Steelers Sunday to secure their first trip to the postseason since 2002. It's about to be 2021, so that's a long time. And Baker says the team is already in playoff mindset.
The mentality here is we're in our playoffs just 1 week early. It's win or go home. So that's the mentality for our guys, but we have the talent, we have the scheme, we just have to go out there and execute it and do our jobs. These are the moments you ask for when you're little, you dream of playing in the games where it comes down to you have the ball in your hands and you want to take care of business.
I'm so excited for this weekend.
I know.
It's really an extra, he's right. Like, this is just a bonus playoff weekend. It's a playoff game for them. It's a playoff game for the Dolphins. It's a playoff game for the Cardinals.
I think the line's up to like 10, so they...
Well, Mason Rudolph is getting the start.
Yeah, that's not great.
So if the Browns lose to the Steelers, they can still make the playoffs. If the Colts lose to the Jags, wouldn't count on that, and the Titans lose to the Texans...
I wouldn't count on that.
And the Ravens and Dolphins both win. So they're not completely done if they lose, but there's a lot of scenarios that have to go their way. So they want to just control their destiny, get this win, which they should have done last week against the Jets, but obviously they didn't have all of their personnel.
Yeah.
So Phillip Rivers is looking to take the Colts to the playoffs in his first season with the team. They need a win and some help to get in, and he realizes this could be his last game in the NFL. He said, it did cross my mind. If things don't go the way you want this weekend, it could be. I guess it's healthy to have that thought because we're not guaranteed anything going forward. He also said he doesn't want this to be the end, but he knows it's a business and he recognizes his age. He did tie Dan Marino for 5th place on the career touchdown list with 420 this season. He's also 5th in all-time passing yards.
2 games this year, Baltimore and Pittsburgh. where Indy is clearly the better team in the first half on script. And then in the second half, Lamar and Ben, second half, you're off script, right? There's more ad-libbing. You make adjustments at half, but you're off script. And in both second halves, Ben and Lamar look so much better and so much more dynamic. And it's unfair because he also had a really good second half against Green Bay. But those games just stick in my mind. The Baltimore game and the Pittsburgh game, they had control of. And in the second half, he just couldn't make enough plays. And maybe it's unfair, but I just think Chris Ballard looks at that and think, we're so close to being like a 12-win team.
Oh, they absolutely are. They have great pieces.
Yeah.
And it's not that he's had a bad season. He's 68.2 completion percentage, 9th in the NFL in passing yards, 23 touchdowns, 10 interceptions. Perfectly capable, but he does have limitations.
Big. And you saw
he looks more stable than he did last year with the Chargers offensive line, but we knew that was going to happen. I could see this being his last game, mostly because the quarterback shuffling that's going to go on in this offseason is going to leave